Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Art and Business of Writing podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jones, where I am excited to share the vision that I've got for you guys. So I'm going to be doing a series. It's the first time I've done a series on this podcast, and if it goes well, it won't be the last time. We're going to kind of take a pause on the interviews. We're going to back in some of those, move those to different places. They will have a part in this series as a follow-up component. But this series, we're going to focus on authorship. And the reason I want to do that is because on Facebook and other places where I meet people and spend time with other people, I'm hearing more often than I have in the past that people are more interested in becoming authors, but they don't know how to do it. Either they don't have the mindset portion down, they don't know how to develop the habits, or they've got those things, but they don't know where to begin. They don't know how to start the process. They don't know how to take it through writing on the page all the way out to create space or even seeking some sort of publishing deal, whether it's with a hybrid or with a traditional publisher. So I'm going to go through all those things with you guys. I'm going to walk through the entire process top to bottom. I'm not sure how long this series is going to be, but we're going to have fun with it. I'm going to break it down and make sure these are digestible chunks. So they're not going to be hour-long episodes. They may not even be half-hour episodes. They'll probably be 15-minute episodes where I dissect a portion of the book process, the authorship process, and I bring that to you so that you can take actionable steps every single week towards finishing or starting. So that's going to begin next week. This week, I want to hand you over to a past interview. We're going to do a kind of a re-interview, and I'm not actually doing the interview, but what's going to happen is you're going to get a rebroadcast. That's really what it's called. So this week, I'm going to do a rebroadcast. It's something I've never done before, but I was inspired by Kate Erickson, who did one this week, and I was like, with book festival season about to start peaking, because we're getting into spring now, people are going to be excited about getting out. The Virginia Festival of the Book is on March 24th, so by the time you hear this, we'll be right up on the weekend of that. All the festivals are going to start to come between now and the end of fall. So I want to give you an interview I did with Tasha Fuller about basically how to market at book festivals, how to get the best and most out of going to a book festival. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Like I said, it's a rebroadcast. It's nothing fresh and new, but it'll be new to you. It's kind of like when you go to the car lot and you see this beautiful car in the car lot, looks good, smells good, it's got the new car smell, drives well, it's got low miles, but it was previously owned. Same thing with this podcast episode. It is a previously recorded podcast, previously released, but maybe it's new to you, or maybe there's some things you can glean from it now that you're further along in your writing journey, or you're just getting started. You can learn a few things from Tasha. I've known Tasha for a number of years. She has been a very effective self-published author, selling countless numbers of books. She's been asked to travel and go to schools and sell her books there. Schools have bought entire boxes of her books to give to the students there when she speaks. So Tasha knows a little bit about how to market and how to promote her books, and she's going to teach you how to do that in this week's episode. So without further ado, I'll bring you this episode, and then at the end, in the closing, we'll talk a little bit more about the series. So here's Tasha. Hey, I am back with Tasha Fuller. If you guys remember Tasha, she was on episode 3 talking about how to think and be like a publisher, and now she is back with more information, more goodies, and more value. Tasha, welcome back.
Thanks, Chris. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, great to have you back. So what's new in your life these days?
Everything is new in my life these days. I just came off the publishing my third children's book, Mommy, I Want to Be a Princess, about my youngest daughter, Amira.
Oh, now that's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me, about how that idea came about, like how you came to wanting to publish books, I guess inspired by your children, which is kind of a niche thing. I've never seen anybody else publish books inspired by their own children.
Well, as you know, as a parent, children can be very comedic at times. And like I told you before, I really had no intentions of even writing the second book, Little Freddy's in the Zone. But after the release of the first book, the twins came to me and was like, Mommy, where's my book? So I actually wrote Amira's book when I was on a bus ride to New York, because I was trying to think of a subject matter, and I know that being a princess is near and dear to her heart. And so I was like, I just basically repeated the conversation that we had about her being a princess, because her name is Amira, and princess means Amira. So She said, but that wasn't good enough. So I basically turned her into a real princess, and I take her on a whimsical journey about character building and character development. So she just doesn't get to dress up in pretty clothes and pretty shoes. She actually goes on a journey. And the book teaches kids about, it's not about what you have or what you're wearing. It's really about how you make people feel. And that's really what makes you a princess.
Now that's funny. Like you said, the comedic value of children, I know from my own how funny they are.
Right.
But just it's funny. Like Amir's like, no, that's not good enough. You let Freddie be in the zone. He gets to hang out with Jackie Robinson and all these, notable athletes, and you're gonna make me just wear a dress.
Right. And so, so just me telling her name means princess was certainly not enough.
Yeah. You had to show her what it was all about.
Yeah,
Mama,
I had to show her.
I got to one up Freddie, Mama.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. And so it's been very, very good. I actually released both of those books in the same year. I released Freddie's in a Zone in May, and then I turned around and released Amira, Mommy, I Want to Be a Princess in December, which was something I will never do again.
That's a good question. That's what I want to ask you, because a lot of writers will write books. They'll put their books together. The nonfiction sphere, not so much. We in the nonfiction sphere release a book, wait a year, release a book. Mm-hmm. Fiction authors will kind of bunch them up together. But what are the pros and the cons of trying to release two books in the same calendar year?
Right. Well, I think I was really excited when I found my third illustrator, Rachel Scotland. I actually found her on Pinterest, which was so exciting. And I was like, I loved her artwork, and she was so responsive. So when people are ready to do something, you really don't want to kind of say, oh, I'm not really ready to start working on it. And this was actually the fastest timeline that I've ever had. And then, of course, making sure that you are releasing in relevant time. So right before Christmas is an ideal time to release any type of book, because people are shopping and they're in the mindset of buying. But it was really hard work, because I was working faster than I had ever worked. And then I was also still promoting Little Freddie's in a Zone, and I still wanted to capitalize on the newness of that. And some of the cons would be is that, as a self-published author, you're paying for both of them at the same time. So you're still working on one while you're developing the other. So the expense can be a little bit much if you're not prepared for it. And then you're also trying to divide your media attention and how you promote the book and how much you want to really harass your audience. I call it harassing, but really, how much do you want to inform your audience so that you're not saturated? So you don't want people not opening up the emails and not looking at the social media posts. You really want it to be a captive audience. I think the good thing about it, even though it was children's books, is that it was two different audiences. One was for little boys and one was for little girls. And I think that with Mommy, I Want to Be a Princess, every little girl can relate to that. Every parent who has a high maintenance little diva can relate to their baby wanting to be a princess. And this one was a little bit of difference, because Freddie was more about character development, and Freddie was more about the sports and the legends, and Amira is more about character development. And so it's really, how are you sharing? Are you being compassionate? And this is really how you earn your princess crown. So they were two different types of books, which I think was helpful. But when you're tapping into the same audience, it can be a little bit difficult, because you have to manage your expectations about, the time of year you're releasing and who's going to be available to support you. But of course, my people always support me, and Amira, Mommy, I Want to Be a Princess has done extremely well.
Now, that brings up a good question. When you talk about the marketing side of it, mm-hmm. Is it difficult to market two books together?
You know what? The kind of thing is, Chris, when you bunch stuff together, people feel like they're getting a deal. So, on all three of the websites, I actually have the option for them to buy all three of the books. So that actually has worked out very well, because people who haven't bought the other books now are buying the books. And the books are available on all three of the websites: amirasheart.com, littlefreddiesinthe.zone.com, and itsbathtimebaby.com. So having the books available kind of makes it a little easier to promote them. And this year, because I'm not working on another book right away, my whole focus is promoting the books, being out at the schools, attending different vendor fairs, being invited to be a speaker at different places. So it gives me an opportunity to focus on basically promotion. I mean, because as an author, that's what you have to do. You have to self-promote. And it's so important that you have the time to focus on that. And it's actually working out very well.
Now, I know, man, writing, I mean, just the promotion of the writing can be so hard, so
Yes.
challenging, just like, okay, how do I do this? How do I get it in front of people?
Right.
How do I not oversaturate your list? Do you create a list
Right.
for each one of your books, or do you like combine them all and just
Yeah, I
mail
could.
people?
Yeah, I combine them all. I can't. I don't have the bandwidth to try to sort a list. But what I wanted to focus on this year was really trying to get people I didn't know to buy the book. I mean, it's easy to get the people to buy the book, and so what I was trying to focus on this year was how do I expose myself to different audiences, and so that's what's important about getting involved in different community organizations, getting involved in different schools, letting people know that you're actually available to do those things. One of the most interesting things, my husband's fraternity brother, who is an educator in Washington, D.C., he had bought the book for his granddaughter. And he was so impressed with the book. And he was like, oh, she loves this book, that he invited me to his school. And so I had an opportunity to go in and speak to about 100 students. The school ended up purchasing a great number of books. So I was like, oh, okay. And so I never really even thought about, the school purchasing the books, even though I do a lot of school events. But the school has a budget to purchase the books. They can add it to their library. And that's all part of the distribution and getting people that you don't know to buy your books. So one of the most interesting things about it is that the more that I put myself out there, the more that I realize that people actually have seen the books, have purchased the books, and actually know me. I went to an event, a Kwanzaa event in Richmond, which is probably about an hour and 15 minutes from where I live, but that's also where I went to school. And one of the parents came up to me and they were like, oh my God, I saw this book on Facebook. And I was like, thinking, you're not my Facebook friend. I was like, I don't know you. So I asked her, I said, well, how did you see the book? She said somebody had posted it in her group and she totally had intentions on buying the book. But social media, people have the lifespan of a gnat on social media. So if you don't get
Yeah.
people to buy something or click on your link within the first 5 or 6 seconds, they move on to the next thing, even though they have the best intentions. So one of the things that, I have just been conscious of is just putting myself out there as a reminder to people, hey, buy my book. So, and then she ended up buying, the book. And of course they want you to have more things at the table. So I've had to really focus on increasing my my product line. So now I do posters, and my illustrators are working on some coloring books, and so I'm just trying to capitalize on people who want to spend money.
Now, you've made two amazing points that I definitely want to delve into.
Okay.
The first one is visibility.
Right.
The importance of visibility, because a lot of times authors will write their book, put it on Amazon, and just every day they'll get up. Okay, let me check my stats.
Right.
Let me check my stats. Oh man,
Right.
no one's buying my book. Why is no one buying my book? Because you're not visible.
Right.
No one knows who you are.
Right. We learned that in B&I, Chris. What visibility?
Yes.
Wait, what is it?
Visibility, credibility,
profitability.
Yes.
Right. There you go. So I mean, those are things that hold true. Is that because if people don't see you, people don't know that you're there. And so one of the things that I really wanted to focus on for this year and not put out another book, because I could easily work on another book, is that I really wanted to work on the visibility, because the books speak for themselves. Everybody loves the books when they read them, but it's like nobody's really recommending books. They don't think about it until they see you. And so I really want to make sure that I'm visible. So like every weekend this month, I'm somewhere, whether it's a vendor fair, a craft show, I'm at a school, I'm doing speaking engagements. So every weekend this month, I'm doing different events. And it's so important as far as my brand is concerned, for people to see me and to have the books available. And I think that people underestimate, they think you're an author. And one of the little kids at my school was like, oh, Miss Fuller read to us. Oh, she must be rich. She's an author. I was like, I'm not there yet, but if people buy my books, I'll get there. So yeah, visibility is so important. I mean, not just visibility on your social media, but just visibility where people can actually see the books, touch the books, and they know that they're there. Because even if you get on a bookshelf in Barnes and Noble or Borders or Books A Million, they're shoved in between 1,000 other children's books. And if you don't have you don't have FaceTime, people don't know that the book is there unless they're literally looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much power in grassroots.
Right.
That's really what I'm focused on these days is grassroots. How can I start at the bare bottom and just
Right.
saturate the market from the bottom up? Because
Right.
we always tend to think, man, I wrote this book, now I got to go straight to the top. But
Right.
you can't, you can't really grow without any roots.
Right. And you can't. And Chris, like I told you before our conversation started, is that I see you putting yourself out there. And the more that you put yourself out there, the more that people are thinking about you because they may have great intentions. I have hundreds of friends who are teachers or educators, and it's not until I put something out there saying, hey, I'm available, do they think, oh, you can come to my school. Well, how long have I been doing this, y'all? So it's kind of like you have to put constant reminders that you're available and this is what you're doing. And you have to tell people, hey, this is what I'm doing, and you need to, call me.
Something I've started doing, Tasha, I keep a box of my books in my car anyway.
Right.
Just in case I run into anybody who wants to buy them. But
Right.
when I'm sitting in Starbucks, I have a copy of my book right next to my coffee because I want someone to walk up and be like, oh, that's a cool book. Where'd you get that book? Well, I'm the author. You know what I mean? But it's little teeny tiny things you don't think about.
Right. And that's what my husband's really good at because he used to get on me so bad because I call it the streetcar ministry or the streetcar hustle.
Yes.
Where they tell you about like how Master P used to just sell CDs at the back of his car.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what you have to do because people want to have the book. And I'm not really, it's not that I'm not a fan of it, but I don't think about that kind of thing. And, when I start putting the books in the back of my car, they're like, oh, I want to get your book. Oh, girl, I got that book right in the back of my car. I was like, how many books you want? So, I mean, that is so important just to make sure that you're continuously putting yourself out there because if you don't, nobody knows that you're there.
Yeah, and it's just like you talked about before, it's the little things you don't think about. Wow, getting into schools to read books. That's right. You would think that that's second nature, but it's not. You're still thinking big time publishing platform. I need to be, on the shelves of this store. But it's like my audience with all their money is right in my backyard.
Right in my backyard. And that is important. It's for you to tap into the people that are right there around you. And then so that then they'll think about it. Because the whole thing with my husband's fraternity brother, like this is book number 3 and Simon has been in the school system for the last 20 years and book number 3 because it resonated with his granddaughter. He was like, oh, why don't I have her come in? And so it was like, it takes people a little time to realize that there's a connection, and I so appreciate the connection. And every time we get the opportunity, but it's just you have to post those kind of things so that your other friends who are educators realize, oh, I can do that too. That kind of thing. And
asking people, just opening your mouth and saying, hey, do you know someone who could benefit from this book? Or do you know someone who can get me into X, Y, and Z venue?
Right. And that's important too. And that's why it's important to be out at local things because people will invite you places when you're out at local things. They'll invite you to the school. They'll invite you to workshops. They'll invite you to speak. So that's why it's important for you to be out because you would have never encountered that person if you were not out and about.
It becomes more intuitive as you do the grassroots, as you know, because then you start thinking, wow, well, I can tap into my local radio.
Exactly.
I can upload a press release to my local newspapers. It just starts to, then all of a sudden the snowball happens. You're like, why didn't I think of this when I released my book 6 months ago, Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm doing, Chris, too, is I'm actually looking for a publicist. And so, and that is something that I realized that it's kind of necessary if you really want to be a writer, not just a writer, but a known author, and you really want to increase your platform, you're going to need a little bit of help. And just like when I put my stuff out there on Facebook, one of my classmates from high school just branched out and she opened a public relations firm. And because she's a newbie, I'm like, oh, okay, you're going to fit into my budget, which is really non-existent. But because I know that I need it, we're going to talk and we're going to work on something that there's things that I just don't want to do because even though I'm capable of it, how there's stuff that you don't want to do because that's not your lane, but you're capable of doing it. Yeah. But because you don't want to do it, you spend so much time, my motto, Chris, do what you do best and pay others to do the rest. That's the kind of thing that I had to think of because I really wanted to have some things done and I really just couldn't find the time to get them done or I just didn't want to do them. So, having a publicist, if you want to increase your visibility can be very helpful.
I'm a firm believer in outsourcing things, and I think
Right.
more writers should do it. It's not as expensive as you think. You can hop on
Right.
Fiverr and have
Right.
someone format your book for Kindle for Amazon if you need to, or have them format your
Mm-hmm.
book for a few bucks. It's not even that expensive. Or you can
Right.
have them actually lay out your cover. I mean, you can go to Fiverr and spend $200 on stuff that costs you $1,000.
Right. Right.
Maybe
right.
not even a full 200, but if you look at the right gigs and the right people, it shakes out really well, and it benefits a lot of writers to even go that route.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, something you talked about before was going to vendor fairs. Like,
Oh yeah.
how do you, one, find these vendor fairs, and two, how do you interact with people when you're there to sell yourself?
Right. So your table, your display is everything. And you have to remember, people are actually coming to this place to spend money. So
Yeah.
you're like, they have money in their pocket. And what you have to do is remember, don't let the money walk away from the table. So even before, like when I went to the show in Richmond, it was the first time doing it. And, I really have to be cautious about how much I spend doing a vendor fair, because you always want to make your money back plus some. So you're not only paying for the application fee, but you're also paying for your books. You have to pay for your time, your transportation to get there. You have to kind of weigh all those things and like, okay, is this really going to be worth it? So I try to keep all of my vendor stuff, if possible, under $50. So it's the under $50 rule. Okay, so like how many books do I have to sell to just recoup my costs? So, and some of the places that you think about going, you're like, oh, this would be a good idea. It really don't pan out. I mean, I went to the Baltimore Book Festival last year, and thousands of people come through there. But this year, the event organizers put all the self-published authors behind the big old ship in the harbor, and no one came around the ship. They couldn't even see us. So it was basically, I was just happy to break even. And I think I sold more books than, some of the other independent authors. But, there were thousands of people there. And if they just would have put us on the other side of the ship, I'm sure we would have made more money. So you have to be cautious of stuff like that. How many people are going to be there? How much do you have to pay to be a vendor? And then do you have enough merchandise and enough, I guess, sparkle to make people come to your table?
And I like what you said. Don't let money walk away from the table. I think,
Right.
The idea of having a budget before you go into something will help you.
Absolutely.
Will be an indicator of, as to one, like you said, whether it's worth your while.
Right.
And two, can I make this money back and then make
Right.
a profit on top of that?
Exactly. Like I went to, one of my friends just invited me to something that their sorority was having, and it was $30. I was like, oh, okay, I could do $30, even if I don't make it back. I'm not, I'm not really missing $30. I probably made 10 times what I spent on that vendor fair, and I was only there 3 hours. And so it's amazing, the stuff that you might not necessarily think would be profitable to you can be very profitable to you. And it was more effective than me spending the entire day at the Baltimore Book Festival, where I barely broke even. And so you have to make sure that not only are you breaking even and that you have your product, but you're displaying it in such a way that people want to see it. And so some of the other things that I'm doing, so I provide posters now because, people like artwork. And so now I have birthday boxes because now, I'm thinking about what do people want, because people are trying to buy more stuff at the table. But if you only have a book, there's not really much more that they can buy. So I started doing the posters, and I sell those for $5 a piece. People love $5 and $10. Now I do birthday boxes where I have themed birthday boxes based on the book. So I have a football birthday box, and it includes the box, the book, plus the poster, plus all the party supplies. Because my background is an event planning, Chris. So I was like, oh, why not marry the two? So they can get a custom birthday box where the parent never has to go out and get anything, and they can just do a whole Freddie in the Zone birthday party.
Now, that's cool. Now, you actually answered one of my questions, mostly when you were talking about the stuff at your vendor table. Like, what are some success tips for engaging with people when they come to my table? So if I come to your table and I see, hey, there's Tasha Fuller, she's got her books, she's got her posters and such. How do, one, I engage people, and two, how do I get them to buy in?
Okay, so what you first have to do is you have to put the book in their hand. A lot of times people are afraid to pick up the book. I don't know why. I'm like, pick up the book, flip through the book. They don't actually read the book, but when the book is in their hand, you talk about the book. You talk about you talk about these books are written by my kid, about my kids. People love to hear that kind of thing. And then sometimes if my kids are at the table, they'll see the children. They're like, oh my God, this is such a great job. So you actually have to put the book in their hand, and then you start talking about, you can talk about your kids, and like in your case, you can talk about writing, because have you ever thought about writing? Chris, I never thought about being a writer. That was not in my lane. So it was just based on what it is that I'm engaging with you about. It depends on what book you're picking up. Are you picking up It's Bath Time, Baby? And I'll tell you what the ideal age for that is. And I'll tell you the story about how that book came along. And I'll tell you all the information about that. If you're picking up Little Freddy's in the Zone, I talk about all the athletes. I talk about the little glossary in the back that gives you a little bit more about each athlete. I tell you about some of the facts that I learned in putting that book together. And then, of course, Amira's book, every little girl picks up that book at the table. And I talk about, her journey to become a princess. And I tell the little girls, if they're with their parents, they could be a real princess too. And, you just kind of talk about the book, and you talk about the process, and you answer questions. And a lot of times people are like, I always wanted to be the children's book author. And then so you talk about how that process worked for you. And, you tell people, you give them advice, just start writing. And before you know it, they may not even need the book, but they're walking away with the book.
That's what I'm talking about.
And and then you tell them, even if they don't have a child, grandkids, godkids, nieces and nephews, you never, it's $10 is not going to kill them.
No, it's actually a very good price point. 5
Right.
and 10, because most people walk around 5s and 10s.
Right.
So.
And it's something about that $10, because of course the book retails for more. And when I talk to people, I was like, $10 is the magic number. $10 is something that people are not afraid to part with. And even though your profit margin is not going to be as high as if you sell it for retail, when you say the retail price, people don't feel like they're getting a deal, and they're like, I don't know. I was like, oh no, $10. Give me 10. And then and then I say, when they pull it out the 10 and I see the 20, I say, you can get 2 for 20, and if you buy 2, you get a free poster. And so they end up giving
upsell. Look at that upsell. I love it.
I'm the queen of that.
Yes,
I'm the queen of that. And so you have to do that while you're at the table. And then it's so important that you accept credit cards. You have to accept credit cards.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a table because I don't carry cash very often, and they say, we don't take credit cards, and it's like, man, that was a sale. That's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's so a miss. And then people spend more money when they have their check card, because they be like, because it's different when you have cash and you be like, oh no, I need my cash. But that, you'll pull out your check card or your credit card so fast and spend money so fast. So it's so important for people to have that, like whether it's Square or something else, you have to accept credit cards.
When I did my book launch party, people were like, I don't have any cash. I'm like, that's okay. I got
Right.
PayPal.
Right.
I just open up my PayPal thing, go ahead and punch your card in right here and press
There you
send.
go. That's all you have to do.
It's an easy thing to do, and I don't know why people don't really engage in that. But
Right.
it was like, like you said, it's leaving money on the table. A customer walks away, you may never ever engage with that customer again.
Right.
They may forget the name of your book because they're seeing 45, 50 other vendors that day.
Yep. And that's so important. And, Chris, one of the other things that has been really helpful, because I really wanted to focus on distribution, is that, the unlikely people who end up helping you. My dad has become my #1 distributor, which is hilarious to me. Because every couple of weeks he calls me with his book order, and I'm serious, and I generate a couple $100 a month from my dad sitting in a coffee shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, selling my books. Because he'll order them week by week. He'll order them 12 at a time, and like for 3 or 4 weeks straight, he'll just like, okay, I need you to send me some more books. Okay, I need you to send. So we negotiated a price point that we both can make money off of it, and he texts me his order. I charge his card, and we keep it moving.
That's powerful. Oh my gosh. Who thinks like that but Tasha Fuller? But I think that's so important. Like, just that strategic alliance aspect where, hey, look, you distribute my books in city A, city B.
Right.
And you get a kickback on that. Man,
right.
That's sweet. I wish I'd thought of that.
See, I mean, but now you know. I mean,
now I know.
I'm so serious, because really, literally, when he first got Freddy's in the Zone, because it resonated with him, within 2 weeks he had sold. Within 2 weeks, he had sold over 200 books.
Wow.
I mean, he had an order for 100 books within the first week. And so I was like, no, I'll ship direct. You know, I was like, just give me the person's information. And so like anytime like I'll put something on Facebook or somebody shares something on Facebook and they say, you know, where can they get the book? Especially if I know they're, you know, in Wisconsin, I was like, hit up my dad. I'll tag him in the post and he'll sell the books. So it's really, you know, people have to think outside of the box. I mean, like
Absolutely.
really think outside of the box.
No, that's a great piece of value there. Now, something I want to go back to is book as brand, because that's something you did with your books. Basically, you turned these books into their own personal brands.
I did.
You generated profit from each one. You turned each one into separate pieces like posters, bookmarkers, art.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about how a person can turn their book into a brand to maximize their profit, and then just some ideas that they can pull.
Right. So kind of what I did was I tried to think about what else can I offer people. And really the customers demanded the brand because they wanted more than just the book at the table. And then you think about it. I mean, think about Disney or any other thing. A new movie comes out and there's Elsa everything. You got Elsa pajamas, Elsa sheets, Elsa coloring books. I mean, there's Elsa everything, Elsa merchandising. So there's so many things that customers are willing to buy associated with the brand that you have to really, it's customer demand. So it was like sometimes people didn't want to buy the book, or they wanted to buy more of the book, or they wanted to have a different aspect. And that's where the whole coloring book comes into play. You want to offer things at varying price points that your customers can buy, because it was like, okay, I have the book, but now what? So you want to be able to engage. And actually, one of the things that was sparked the coloring book was that I'm taking a trip to Ethiopia this summer. And of course, I want to be able to share my books. And I had talked to my sister-in-law about going to an orphanage and what they needed. And I was trying to figure something out at a cheaper price point than the book that I could actually give away or have people sponsor, you know, something at a cheaper price point for me. So I wouldn't go broke giving away all of my books. And one of the things is I had talked to one of my illustrators, and basically for me to do a coloring book, it's a fraction of the cost. So I'm able to give away coloring books when I go to Ethiopia, versus having to give away a full colored book where, you know, it may cost me, you know, $7 just to give away. And so if something can cost me $2 to give away, I think I could, you know, I'll be able to afford that as a self-published author. And so I was like, oh, I can do a coloring book. But then again, that coloring book becomes a point of revenue for me, because, oh, people will buy a coloring book if I put it on the table. So that kind of thing you have to always be thinking about when you think about yourself as a brand. And your audience will let you know what they want. I'm even thinking about animation now. Like, how do I turn these books into a video? And one of the customers suggested that. They was like, you don't have a DVD? I was like, I didn't even think about a DVD. So every time you think of something, you have to think about the whole package. Even if you have a book that is considered primarily text, you have graphics that go along with that. And, you know, you can put together, like, for example, your book, you can put together a calendar, and it doesn't have to be a visual arts calendar. It can be tips for the month. Like, what are you working on this month? Or here's the quote of the month, and these are the 3 steps that you should do to work towards it. And it can be a calendar that you put together that helps people write their book in the course of a year. You can pay me for that later, Chris. But, you know, you see what I'm saying? Like the month by month steps. And it could be a calendar, or like the kids have an agenda where they write things down, and you kind of say, okay, now we're writing about this. So what can you do with your product that is going to, you know, expand your brand?
Right. Oh man, we're all competing with Disney, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
But now something else you just mentioned, I think we need to dive into now, is customer feedback. Everything you said was what customer said. A customer said. A customer said. You listen. How important is that?
Oh, it's critical. It's critical. It's critical to listen to the customer, because you want them to be a repeat customer. And that's how you get repeat customers, because, you know, people are going to think about how you treated them. And you know, we're all about customer service because I'm in the customer service industry. You want to have repeat customers. It's just like being married. It's cheaper to keep her. So the cost that it's related to generating a new customer could be double what it is to just retain a customer. Anytime anybody's in business, whether it's membership, whether it's sales, you're thinking about retention. You want that repeat business because you don't have to work as hard to get it. And so when you get repeat business, like I'm sitting in the hairdresser right now, you know, I told you I had to multitask. If Dion doesn't do a good job, I am not coming back. And she got to work a little harder to get a new customer in the door. And basically, as the customer, I sell her. People say, oh, girl, your hair look cute. Oh, yeah, Dion Mosaics Route 1. Any natural hair care, plug for Dion. Dion Mosaics Route 1 Woodbridge. Every time someone comments on my hair, I say, okay, this is where you can go. So it's the same thing about your books. Somebody is going to see the book, or somebody makes a post on Facebook. Just like when one of my girlfriends, she's in Chicago, she purchased the book. She shared the link on her page, and she said, oh, you have to support this local author. Then Chicks with MDs, another person who does a blog, she ordered the books, and then she posted it on her blog site. And when she posted it on her blog site, several other people ordered the books. So it's just about word of mouth and listening to your customer and giving your customer what they need, because they will sell the books for you. It's just like customer service is so important. So if the books came late or if the books were raggedy, Bonnie would have never shared the post. She would have never said, support this person. So when you have people and you're listening to your customers and you're giving them what they want, they will sell the books for you. So it is so important to listen to the customer and figure out what they want. That's how the posters came about, because, you know, I started doing the artwork because the first printer that I had messed up and printed all of my books backwards. And so I was like, what am I going to do with 200 books that are printed backwards? I took it to one of my friends who has a framing shop. She cut the books up and matted them, and it became artwork. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I said, oh, I can use the cover for prints. And so it was just a whole bunch of things that kind of turned into something else, that turned into something else, that turned into something else. So you have to be open to do things differently.
That's what I love about you, Tasha. Your awareness is so high. You're always on this level, man, where if something goes wrong, you find out, oh, well, I can fix it this way. Cool. You know?
Yeah. I mean, because you can't dwell in, oh, this was a mistake, and now what am I going to do? You have to figure out, how can I use this mistake as an opportunity for me to grow from this. And then, you know, because basically me turning those messed up books into artwork was at no cost to me, other than me just getting them matted. And then people could take a piece of the book. And, you know, sometimes children's books have such beautiful artwork that you're trying to like, oh, I wish that was in the print. Hey, now it is. You can have it and put it right up on your wall without tearing up your book.
See, I love that. You turn a mistake into money.
Yeah. Oh, praise God. Oh.
You know, that's the beauty of being a marketer on the writing, on the business side of writing, is just, you know, making these judgment calls. Okay, well, this didn't work out, but this became of it. This didn't work out, this became of it. Or, oh, wow, this is a great idea. Just being able to stay on top of what's working, what's moving, what's shaking. And that's what you've done such a good job of promoting yourself doing.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. And so, like, even though you have other books in the works, you still have to be conscious of when you're releasing that book, because you want to release it close enough to the other book where you still have a captured audience, but you don't want to be so close that you're, like I said before, that you're saturating the market.
Oh, definitely delicate balance. All right,
yeah.
So let's come in for a landing, man. You shared so many amazing things. I'm sure people will be writing notes for days. Can you share just a little closing wisdom on what people can do to build that grassroots that we talked about earlier? How can they get started with that? Because we talked about a lot of different things, a lot of, you know, topics and thoughts about marketing. What's a good starting point and how to branch out?
You have to put yourself out there. There's There's no other way to say it, and it has to be multidimensional. It can't just be, oh, I'm on Facebook, oh, I'm on Instagram, oh, I'm on Twitter. You can't just think that the social media is going to take care of everything that you need. You have to physically be there. You have to be the face and the place. Like, with anything, Krista, when we had our own businesses, we were every Thursday, we were networking at the same place, making sure people knew who we were. And then you have to expand your network. So in order for you to be successful as an author or anything that you do, because we're all into entrepreneurship, you really have to put yourself out there. Visibility, visibility, visibility. And then you have to be willing to take risks. And then when those risks don't pan out, you have to be willing to change the game. And being being courageous about changing what worked or what didn't work is so important, because every time you go somewhere, you're going to learn something new about yourself. You're going to learn something new about your customer base, and you have to be receptive to what it is that they're telling you and how it is that you can use that information to grow your business or to grow your visibility or to grow your brand. And so anytime that an author says, or a person says, I want to be an author, I want to write a book, the first thing you have to do is just do it, because you can always want to be something until you are something. And if you never do it, you'll never be what you want to be. So you have to do that. So if you want to be more visible, you have to put yourself out there. If you want your profits to go, you got to sell more books. And so it's so important for self-published authors, or even authors that have a publisher but don't have a publicist or don't have the team behind them to make them uber successful. You have to be your own team. You have to put the pieces of the puzzle in place to make it happen. And you have to be willing to try new things to make your brand grow.
Woo! Yes.
I'm sorry.
I love it. No, thank you so much for joining me again, Tasha. Again, thank you for bringing it like you always do.
Oh, thank you, Chris, for having me. I enjoy this. And, I'm talking. So, I love anything that involves me talking.
Well, best of luck to you on your newest endeavors and what you're working on. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. And congratulations on your new book.
Oh, thank you.